Level 0. It begins with a whisper, not from the sky, but from the ground. You walk outside after a light drizzle. The air smells like wet leaves and warm asphalt. The birds are still singing, but beneath your feet, the earth is holding something back. Your lawn feels soft, too soft. You step and the ground squishes slightly. It's not mud, but it's not dry either. You notice puddles on the street, not deep but persistent. Water collecting in familiar low spots that usually dry in minutes now linger for hours. You glance at the drains. They're not blocked, but they're barely moving, trickling, not pulling. That shimmer of water, that's your first clue. This is level 0, the oversaturation point, the false calm. The moment when rain no longer disappears, but stays. No one will issue a flood alert. The news won't mention it, but hydrologists and civil engineers know this phase well. Once the soil can't absorb water anymore, everything changes. Runoff, not rainfall, becomes the main threat. What you're seeing is the beginning of flood mechanics. When gravity prepares to take control, when the sponge becomes the slick, you can walk through level 0. You can drive across it without a second thought. But the danger isn't in the water you see. It's in the water that can no longer go anywhere. When the next rain comes, and it always comes, the land won't help you. Level 1. No clouds, no thunder, no storm. And yet the street is underwater. You check your weather app. Nothing. You step outside. Everything. This is not rainwater. This is the ocean, returning. A thin sheet of salt water creeps up through storm drains and coats the asphalt in silence. It's not violent. It doesn't roar. It laps, slowly, predictably, like a tide that's lost its leash. This is nuisance flooding, known in policy as sunny day flooding. The public hears nuisance and thinks harmless. But for people living near coastlines, it's a way of life now. In Miami, it floods dozens of times a year without a drop of rain. In parts of Bangladesh, the tides roll into neighborhoods like uninvited guests, arriving early, overstaying, and rotting everything they touch. In Venice, tourists roll up their jeans, residents install floating floors, businesses lay down sandbags before lunch. Why does it happen? Because the sea is rising, and the moon still pulls the ocean the same way it always has. But now the ocean is closer to us than it used to be. When streets flood under blue skies, the threat is not today. It's the erosion of infrastructure, the corrosion of sewage systems, the slow rot of buildings not built to bathe. And it's only getting worse. By 2050, many coastal US cities could see nuisance flooding every other day. You can't fight level 1 with a raincoat. You fight it with seawalls, infrastructure updates, or, in some cases, by leaving. If you live near the coast, track king tides and full moons. Flooding that looks random may actually follow a lunar schedule. Level 2. The sky opens, not for long, but hard. 15 minutes of rain, maybe 20, then it stops. But the water, it doesn't. You're in the city. Concrete and asphalt as far as the eye can see, and all of it is impermeable. No absorption, no soaking, no delay. You hear it before you see it. The gurgle of storm drains choking, the deep splash as tires cut through waterlogged intersections, the hollow thump of a manhole cover jumping as pressure builds from below. This is urban street flooding, a problem born from two things: too much water and nowhere for it to go. It doesn't take a hurricane, just the right thunderstorm, at the wrong time, over the wrong neighborhood. In 2021, a flash rain event in New York dumped 80 millimeters of rain in an hour. Subways flooded, cars stalled, people drowned in basement apartments. Cities like Mumbai, Lagos, Manila, they've turned rain into a regular disaster. It doesn't have to be deep to be deadly. Even 6 inches of water can stall a sedan. 12 inches can lift it. 18. You're floating into a current you didn't know existed. And it always seems to strike where the stormwater maps weren't ready, or where drains hadn't been cleared in months. But this isn't always climate change. Sometimes it's poor design. Cities that grew faster than they drained, neighborhoods that paved over creeks, construction that ignored runoff paths. Level 2 isn't just water on the road. It's the collapse of traffic, transit, and timing. Know your block's drainage direction. In older cities, low intersections are mini flood basins. Avoid parking or walking near them during summer storms. Level 3. It doesn't creep, it crashes. The rain doesn't fall, it dumps. The river doesn't rise, it surges. And you don't get to prepare, because it's already here. This is flash flooding, the most sudden, most violent, and most deadly type of flood on Earth. One thunderstorm upstream can kill people downstream with no warning. Dry riverbeds, arroyos in the American Southwest, wadis in the Middle East, turn into roaring rivers in minutes. People walking dogs in canyons vanish. Hikers are swept away without ever seeing the storm that caused it. In 2015, 20 people died in a Utah slot canyon. The sky above them was clear. The water came from 11 kilometers away. The thing about flash floods is that they're faster than your senses. You hear the rumble, you see a brown surge, you turn to run, and the water is already ankle deep, then waist, then chest. 1 cubic meter of floodwater weighs a metric ton. A wall of water moving at 40 kilometers per hour hits harder than most cars. And flash floods don't care about where you are. In recent years, major cities, New York, Beijing, Dubai, have all been caught off guard by flash events. Because when the rain exceeds 75 millimeters in under an hour, no drain, no river, no plan is fast enough. This is the kind of flood that breaks buildings and shatters timelines. During flood watches, never camp or park in valleys or underpasses. Flash floods hit low ground first and fastest. Level 4. This flood doesn't want your car, it wants your town. This is Riverine flooding, the slow-motion disaster. It begins days before you feel it. You watch the rainfall totals in another town, another county, another state. Then the updates come in. River gauge exceeded. Levee nearing crest. Mandatory evacuations begin tonight. It's not sudden like flash flooding, but it's massive and it's relentless. Rivers like the Mississippi, the Ganges, the Yangtze, they hold billions of gallons, and when they rise, they don't stop at your welcome mat, they keep going. In 1993, the Great Midwest Flood lasted 200 days and impacted 9 US states. Tens of thousands of homes were lost. Entire towns were wiped off the map. But the most brutal thing about Level 4 flooding is hope. You see the water outside your house and think, it won't get higher. So you wait, you lift the couch, you stack sandbags, you move the car to the hill, and then you go to bed and wake up chest deep in brown water. The damage from river floods isn't just structural, it's economic. It destroys crops, poisons wells, cuts power to hospitals, and closes highways for weeks. And when the water finally leaves, it doesn't leave quietly. It leaves behind rot, rust, mold, sewage, and silence. Don't just rely on the river height forecast. Know the lag time between rainfall and flooding in your area. That gap is your escape window. Level 5. The wind comes first, then the ocean follows it in. This isn't rainfall, this isn't runoff. This is the sea rising off its leash. A storm surge, the deadliest part of a hurricane, and the most misunderstood. It doesn't look like a wave. It's not cinematic. It's not shaped like a wall. It's more like the ocean swelling and forgetting where the beach ends. When hurricanes spin toward shore, they shove seawater ahead of them. That water builds up, gets pushed into bays, rivers, and canals, and then spills over. Not slowly, not politely. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina sent a storm surge nearly 8 meters high into New Orleans. It overwhelmed levees, crashed through homes, filled entire neighborhoods like bathtubs. Over 1,800 lives were lost, not because of the wind, because of water, slow, high, and merciless. A single cubic meter of seawater weighs over a ton. A surge can move entire buildings. It can hurl boats across highways. It can carve new coastlines. And when it recedes, it doesn't leave life. It leaves mold, salinity, oil spills, snakes in attics, and the bones of everything that didn't escape in time. What makes storm surges worse? Urban sprawl, wetlands paved over, mangroves cut down. Nature used to absorb the blow, now it reflects it straight into your street. If officials issue an evacuation for storm surge, do not wait. Surge height can rise 30 centimeters in 5 minutes and block exits fast. Escape early or not at all. Level 6. The dam looks fine until it doesn't. One hairline fracture, one blockage, one overtopped wall, then millions of tons of stored water are suddenly free. This is dam failure flooding, rare. But when it happens, it's instant devastation. Unlike river flooding, this isn't slow. Unlike storm surges, this isn't wide. This is focused destruction, a man-made megaflood with seconds of warning. The 1975 Banqiao Dam failure in China is still the deadliest of all time. In 3 days, it killed an estimated 171,000 people. A typhoon overloaded the reservoir. 62 dams collapsed in a chain. Water swept entire towns off the map. There is no resistance to a broken dam. Towns downstream get swallowed. Roads turn to trenches. Bridges collapse like toys. And it doesn't take ancient infrastructure. In 2023, Libya's Derna Dam collapse killed thousands. After record rainfall, the city was torn in two, homes erased, people carried to sea. The tragedy? Dams hold back water for us. Power, irrigation, recreation. But when they fail at us. If you live downstream of a dam, check if there's an inundation map available. Know the zones and have an escape plan, even if the odds seem small. Level 7. This isn't just a flood, it's a weather system and a political crisis. A monsoon flood doesn't strike overnight. It grinds in, settles, expands. Weeks of rain, saturated fields. Rivers rising. Then, the tipping point. Across South Asia, this happens every year. But every few years it's worse. 2007, 2010, 2022. Tens of millions displaced, thousands dead. Diseases bloom, crops vanish. In Pakistan, 2022 saw a third of the country underwater. Over 1,700 people died. Infrastructure shattered. Cattle drowned. Villages became lakes. The government declared a national emergency. Damage exceeded $30 billion. Monsoon floods overwhelm everything. Not just homes, entire cities. Not just food, the means to grow it for the next year. And the deeper cruelty? It strikes hardest in regions with the fewest resources to recover. Children walk through waist-deep water to reach shelter. Hospitals lose power. Relief helicopters can't land. And even after the water leaves, the soil is poisoned with fuel, waste, and rot. This isn't just a level 7 flood. It's a collapse of system, structure, and hope. Level 8. Now, it's not just the rain or the rivers, it's the sky itself breaking. A rain bomb. That's the informal term for what meteorologists call an extreme precipitation event. It happens when the atmosphere holds more water than usual and then dumps it all at once. One cloud, one city. And in 6 hours, more rain than would usually fall in 2 months. In 2021, Germany and Belgium were struck by a catastrophic level 8 event. Rain fell for days. Then one night, up to 150 millimeters fell in just 24 hours. Towns were swept away. Cars floated down highways. Over 220 people died, many in their own homes, unable to escape rising water. Climate change is intensifying these events. Hotter air holds more moisture, so when it rains, it pours, faster, harder, longer. Cities like Seoul, Chennai, and Houston have all seen these cloudbursts. Their infrastructure wasn't built to handle 10 centimeters an hour. Sewers explode, power goes out, cell towers die. Rain bombs don't always kill through drowning. They kill through systemic failure. Hospitals go dark, roads vanish, emergency services can't reach the stranded or even locate them. In flood-prone urban areas, keep a go bag by the door with flashlight, battery bank, radio, and waterproof ID. If a cloudburst hits, you won't have time to pack. Level 9. This isn't a flood. This is a sea where there wasn't one before. Level 9 floods don't hit cities. They create lakes, they rewrite topography. These are megafloods, and they've happened before. During the last ice age, glacial Lake Missoula in North America burst through its ice dam. The floodwaters carved gorges, scattered boulders the size of trucks, and reached speeds of 100 kilometers per hour. In geological terms, these were instant continents reshaped by water. Today, the threat returns in different forms. Melting glaciers releasing sudden bursts, overloaded catchment basins in Himalayan valleys, simultaneous dam failures in storm zones, combined cyclone plus monsoon plus surge disasters. In 2023, a study warned that climate change could increase the risk of compound flooding. where sea level rise, rain, and rivers collide to create a single catastrophe. A megaflood nemtat e.g. Napig. It lasts weeks. Entire districts may become islands. Some may never be rebuilt. And afterward, a humanitarian crisis. Diseases from stagnant water, food shortages, migration in the tens of millions. Megaflood zones are often undermapped. If you live near a glacial lake, dam system, or low valley surrounded by ridges, research paleoflood history for your region. It reveals where disaster struck before. Level 10. We're not talking about just land anymore. We're talking about what happens when the world itself floods. This is speculative, but not fiction. Imagine this. Greenland's ice sheet collapses. Global sea levels rise over 2 meters. The oceans surge into coastlines where 1 billion people live today. Jakarta, gone. New York, submerged. Shanghai, Mumbai, Lagos, Miami, rewritten. This is global flooding, not a disaster, but a new normal. Entire countries would lose territory. Cities would move inland or vanish. Climate refugees would number in the hundreds of millions. Fertile deltas would drown. Freshwater aquifers would be poisoned with salt. Storm surges would reach twice as far and happen twice as often. You wouldn't be buying sandbags, you'd be buying elevation. And if Antarctica followed Greenland, that's another 10 to 15 meters of sea level rise. The Earth would look like a different planet, coastlines pulled back like melting wax. No nation, rich or poor, would be spared. Infrastructure built for one climate would be useless in another. At this level, flooding doesn't visit your country, it remaps it. Want to know your home's future risk? Use interactive sea level maps like Climate Central or NOAA's flood factor, because where you live today might be underwater tomorrow. Tap the bell and stay dry. One click now might mean one step ahead, before the water even rises. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.